has accused Barnes & Noble of gender bias because he was in the children's section using the telephone, but he didn't have any kids with him, and he was sitting on the floor, and somebody thought he was kind of creepy and reported him to management, and they escorted him from the building. And he felt like if he was a little old lady, that would not have happened.
It wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened.
Mm-mm.
It's true, but, I mean, as a mom, if I see a weird old guy in the kids section, I don't know if I'm turning him into management, but I'm side-eyeing the fuck out of him.
Side-eyeing the hell out of him.
How old is he again?
He is 73, is it? No, yeah,
okay.
73.
Old enough to know that you can't be a 73-year-old grown-ass man sitting in the kids section.
Well, plus, he's Middle Eastern with an accent.
Okay.
So he's gonna.
I don't think that had anything to do with it. I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Well, they could hear him. He was sitting there on the floor on his cell phone.
But I don't care what kind of an accent you have. If you're an old man in the children's section by yourself sitting on the floor,
I'm willing to bet that
I'm going to be uncomfortable with it.
I'm willing to bet that the accent is what first brought attention to him.
No.
Somebody heard the accent.
No.
I get feeling nervous.
I think Tina is what first brought attention to him.
Yes, exactly.
I get being nervous about an old man in the kids section, but then that's when you leave. You don't make him leave. It's not his fault that you feel nervous.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. But then if he's a Chester, all you've done is saved your kids. You haven't stopped anybody else's kids from possibly being gripped.
Are you the world police, though? I mean, you're going to go out and just because you feel nervous about some guy?
No, yeah, you should.
I might say something, but
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You can go to the management and say, you know, I don't know, something seems weird about him. Can you keep an eye on him?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
No, I think they handled it poorly. I think they probably, if it were me as a manager of that store, I would have went to the man and said, you know, can I help you, sir? You know, what are you doing here? You know, that kind of thing.
But do we know how it got from, hey, listen, there's a creepy old dude sitting by, you know, Babar books. On the phone, I don't know what the hell he has no kids with him. How did it go from the manager saying, okay, let me go check it out? Because I think most of us would approach him like, can I help you? You know, how did it go from the confrontation to you need to leave? Do we know?
No. It just says that the woman complained to a staff employee that she felt which it might have been something that I would do, you know, depending on my level of unease. And then the man, his last name is Amin, says that the store employee interrupted his call because he was talking to a friend on the phone. That's why he went there, because he thought it wouldn't be busy. He'd be able to take his call in peace, which really you can't just step outside to take the phone call. But so
when you're on a cell phone,
he interrupted his call and said he needed to leave the store.
He did go in to buy books for his grandchildren. So he was heading into the children's section anyway. Okay. He took the call, he got into the children's section, and he sat down on the floor to finish up with the call.
Okay, he says he was going to buy books for his grandchildren. How do we know he really was?
Yeah, because listen, if he was there to like peek at little girls' panties, he wasn't going to say that.
Right. Every pedophile would be like, no, I was buying books for these kids.
For my grandkids that I don't have.
I know it's true because I read it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Live tweeting.
I don't know. I'm kind of uncomfortable, and we had this conversation somewhat already, but I guess raising two boys and being with a fantastic guy who, as far as I noticed, the children's section of bookstores by himself, I'm uncomfortable with the fact that we instantly assume if, in fact, he did not make any step toward the children, if he didn't talk to children, if he didn't side-eye children, I'm very uncomfortable with just assuming that any man near a children's book is just there to molest the kiddies.
Well, okay, but here's the thing. As a parent to a 13-year-old girl who looks 16, there's two parts to this. There's how the woman reacted, which I think was dead on, personally, as a mother to a young girl, what she should have done, and there's how the store reacted. And if we separate it, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with women keeping an eye out for these types of things. If you are up to no good, if I say, listen, this guy is in this children's section, he's sitting there, if there's an old dude sitting at the park watching kids play and he has no kids with him and he's taking pictures or acting suspicious, these are exactly the situations where I think women should be speaking up.
Right, but did he?
Because you don't automatically assume and infringe upon his rights. You know, you don't ask him to leave unnecessarily. No, you don't. But you have to be, I think, when we're dealing with young girls and young boys, but particularly with young girls, I do think these are the things that you have to watch out for. We can't just sit there and say, oh, you know, again, like I said before, it's kind of like women who say, you know, oh, there was a guy in the elevator alone. I thought this probably isn't smart, but I didn't want him to think I was a bitch and I didn't want to offend him, so I got in the elevator, and next thing you know, you're raped. I'm not saying all men in the elevator are waiting to rape you, but I'm saying that you have to pay attention to these things, and there's nothing wrong with thinking this way. As Gavin DeBecker said, you know, we are the only ones, animals don't have a bad feeling and then say, oh, it's probably nothing, and I don't want to make that deer feel bad. You know, like humans, we sit there and we rationalize this stuff, worrying about people's feelings. I don't think that's...
I think we're on the same page. I'm just wondering what the old man did, because if he was sitting there, like you mentioned the park situation, if I saw an old man sitting on a bench in a park near some park equipment, but he wasn't, you know, looking at kids, certainly not taking pictures, not trying to chat kids up, you know, just sitting there with a sandwich feeding a pigeon, I would not think anything untoward about that. What I'm saying is, in this children's section, did he try to talk to your child? Was he looking at your child? Or did he just make a really poor decision about where to take a phone call? I don't know. Everyone should follow their instincts. I'm totally in agreement with you on that.
I think he made a really poor decision about where to take a phone call. And I work with children, and I love children, and I have to think constantly about the decisions that I'm making and how this will appear.
Yeah.
Because you know, I can't, you know, when I'm taking a child and I'm helping them in the potty, I have to make sure. I mean, that's my job. It's my job to help you in the potty, and it's my job to wipe your bottom if you can't wipe it yourself. But that's my job. But I have to make sure that I'm doing that in a way that is very obvious that what I'm doing is just my job, and I'm not doing something else.
Yeah.
So, and I take that with me everywhere. Even as a woman, I would not choose to sit in a children's area without a child to take a phone call. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't sit down in the middle of the children's book aisle or where they have their little story time and just hang out and tweet on my phone or whatever. I wouldn't do that because that's a children's area. That's for children. So I'm going to step over to the cafe area to take my phone call, or I'm going to step outside, or I'm going to, you know, be in the adult area doing my adult things without my children around. If I have my daughter with me and she's looking at books, then I wouldn't think twice about sitting down and taking a phone call because my daughter's right there. Right. You know what I'm saying? I just think he made a poor decision, and I think the store management handled it poorly. But I don't think anybody was in the wrong, and I don't think he doesn't have any grounds to sue the store, or, you know, I think he's blown this out of proportion. I think he made a bad decision and they reacted badly, and it went down, you know, in an unfortunate way, but he should know better, and next time he will.
I bet his ass won't take a phone call in the children's section again.
Exactly.
Well, and I just want to say one more thing, because Barbara brought up, you know, that, you know, being married to a decent guy, and I do think that most men are decent, but I also think that decent men are usually aware enough to know that they have to take care to not appear creepy or threatening. You know, like we had that conversation online about, you know, one of our friends was out and he saw a little girl who was lost, but he is smart enough to know that he can't be the one to take her to go find her mommy. It's like, okay, he would let his wife do that, and he'll, you know what I mean? Like, men are aware of that. And even if you're treating them in an overly cautious manner, or, you know, you might be suspicious when you don't need to be, I think most decent guys understand that women have to be. Especially we have to be that way when we're thinking about our children.
And you're absolutely right. It just makes me as sad as it does that most women know they can't walk around alone at night. I guess, I mean, you're absolutely right, and I agree with you. It just makes me sad that if you found a little girl in public, because how would you react? Same way, right?
I mean, if I found a little girl in public who was lost, I would be very obvious about, I'm right here, we have a lost girl, you know, look at you.
Lost girl!
Somebody please come help this little girl that I don't know and I'm not touching in any way.
And that just makes me sad that you would have to do that, because you're a kind-hearted person who would like to be able to.
But you'd be even sadder if his ass was thrown in jail for something he didn't do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say I do disagree with Kim slightly. I do think that whatever woman reported the guy, that was absolutely fine. I do think the store overreacted in asking him to leave. But in whoever asked him to leave, if there was not a valid reason for him being asked to leave, actually did open the store up to the possibility of a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he actually, if he's got a good lawyer, he could actually win.
Well, what about stores that, you see it posted in the store, we have the right to refuse service to anyone?
Refusing service is one thing. Asking somebody to leave is another.
That's the same thing.
And then people have the right to not shop there if they don't like their policies.
Yeah, wait a minute.
But you don't have the right to refuse service to anyone. Not on racial basis or sexist or anything like that. You can't.
Exactly. So if it was gender bias, which is what he's saying, then he has a case. It's up to the lawyer to prove it, but
How could
he
you
could win.
prove that? How could you prove that it was gender bias?
It'll come out in court with whatever witnesses are provided.
But how do you? There's no way to prove that. There's no creepy bias. I mean, he was creepy.
Well, there is a creepy bias, but it's not illegal.
Right. It's not illegal to be creepy.
I know. Trust me.
Okay.
Everything I know about John Mayer is he treats women like Pokemon. Got to catch them all.